WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye. Hey, Sherry.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression on our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
All right. Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. The Education Advocacy Station. Yes, I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist, here to get them started. And as we always do, no feedback there. All right. Hey, Steve, I see you, bro. All right. Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. Yes, indeed. We will do that for you here. The PSA here. All right. With all that's going on, with all these companies killing off their DEI initiatives and what have you, the only thing colonizers understand is money. That's what, hold on. Yeah. The only thing that colonizers understand is money. So, on February 28th. All right, that's next Friday. All right, it's going to have an economic blackout. Our first official act. Turn it off. For one day, we show them who really holds the power. All right, hey, Bessie. All right, what not to do. Do not, on February 28th, do not make any purchases. Don't shop online or in the store, no Amazon, no Walmart, no Best Buy, nowhere, no McDonald's. Do not spend money on food, fast food, on gas. Don't go to major retailers. Don't use your credit or debit cards for non-essential spending. What you can do, if necessary, only buy essential, absolutely necessary items, such as food, medicine, or emergency supplies. If you must spend, try to only support small local businesses and spread the message. Talk about it, post about it, document your actions that day. Why this matters. Corporations and banks only care about their bottom line. Okay? If we disrupt the economy for just one day, it sends a powerful message. If they don't listen, we make the next blackout longer. This is our first action. Our numbers are powerful. This is how we make history. All right? And share this. And of course, you know, I've been calling for a one-day boycott for quite some time here. All right? Especially with our people. Let me get my disclaimer out the way.
The views and opinions expressed on the Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
WHGE 95.3 FM. Sister Sherry said, we need to continue that economic blackout for at least a year. Find and shop at businesses that support DEI initiatives, such as Costco's and what have you. Okay. And remember, a boycott is not a short-term thing. This is the long game. The most glaring example, of course, is the Montgomery bus boycott. I think it lasted 381 days. Okay. And it took the economy of Montgomery, Alabama to its knees. That's why they gave in. Because we affected the bottom line. Colonizers understand money and blood. That's what they understand, money and blood. And like Salazzo in The Godfather said, blood is a big expense, one that we as black people can no longer afford. All right, let me get a little quick music up in here right quick and get my ducks in a row. All right, all right. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. All right. Patrice Gibbs here, your third eye optometrist. Yeah. You know, they teach you that your third eye is evil, so you don't use it. Keep tuning in. This is from Sister Tracy. I'd like to thank her for posting this because a lot of people need to hear this. What you put into the world will inevitably return to you. This sacred wisdom reminds us that the energy we give is the energy we will receive. There is no escaping the results of your deeds, whether good or bad. No matter your status or influence, you are accountable for your actions. Justice is woven into the fabric of the cosmos, ensuring that everyone reaps what they sow. Therefore, strive to walk in alignment with truth and righteousness, knowing that your deeds will shape your destiny. And that's from Awori Menji. And like I said, I think Sister Tracy Johnson for posting that. A lot of people need to hear that, especially right now. Yeah. You know, it's 60 years ago. Some things went on 60 years ago. All right. February 18th marked the 60th anniversary of the Cambridge University Baldwin versus Buckley debate of 1965. James Baldwin and William F. Buckley, Jr., who at the time of the debate could be considered intellectual titans, met at Cambridge University for a debate whose context and topic still echoes relevance today. The proposition: the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro. During the debate, James Baldwin said, the Southern oligarchy, which has until today so much power in Washington and therefore some power in the world, was created by my labor and my sweat and the violation of my women and the murder of my children. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and no one can challenge that statement. It is a matter of historical record. In another way, this dream, and we'll get to the dream in a moment, is at the expense of the American Negro. If you haven't seen that debate, I would definitely, it's on YouTube, it's online, what have you. I would definitely advise you to check it out. This is, and in case you're wondering, all right, Baldwin won that debate, hands down. The students voted. The occasion at the Cambridge Union Society, the oldest continuously running debating society in the world, marked the first time that Baldwin had participated in a formal debate. As an undergraduate at Yale, Buckley had starred on the debate team. Each debater was given 15 minutes to make their case. Baldwin argued for the motion, and Buckley spoke against it. Going first, Baldwin gave a rousing sermon to nearly 1,000 Cambridge students that laid out his case in stark historical terms. I picked the cotton, he said. All right. When Baldwin finished his speech, he received a standing ovation, and well, he should have. For his part, Buckley pressed African Americans not to embrace the cynicism and despair espoused by Baldwin. And what should James Baldwin be doing other than telling us to renounce our civilization, he said. He should be addressing his own people and urging them to take advantage of those opportunities which do exist. The members of the union voted 544 to 164 in favor of Baldwin's arguments. And I tell you, it's something. During that time, you had those that would argue that there was not a racial problem in America. And of course, Buckley was one of them. Moving right along. This is from Darrell A. Chamberlain. Check this out. No one would have guessed it, but I did. No one thought that voting for Trump would mean that they would lose their jobs. No one thought that it would mean that they would lose their federal grants. Some never thought that it would mean that they would lose their SNAP benefits and Medicaid. Wait until he comes for your Social Security. Of course, there is that naive one who never would have thought that it would mean that the Civil Rights Act would be whittled away. But he told you. He said, make America great again. In other words, a do-over. To do something again means that it has to have been done before. Welcome to the great again. In the great again, the United States was a limited democracy as it was when I was born. In the great again, colored people could not attend the same schools as non-colored people. In the great again, colored people could not go to libraries in the South, along with parks, swimming pools, movie houses, universities, lunch counters, bus depots, as segregation was the national religion in the great again. In the great again, colored people in the South could not vote, and colored people in the North had nothing for which to vote for. I hear people say, I like him because he's doing just what he said. So for all you colored people who voted for him, how does it feel to be sawing a branch off in a tree and sitting on the wrong side of the saw? Ask Tim Scott where his appointment is. Yeah. You know, they had their little, Trump had a Black History celebration where he invited all the, what's the word I'm looking for? The Black MAGAs and what have you. Some other words for them. All skin folk are not our kinfolk. And the one of the main characters at this so-called Black History event was Tiger Woods. You know, it's something like he went around and he gathered up all the slaves that wouldn't run off the plantation with Harriet Tubman and said, these is good black peoples. These are my blacks. Brother Alan Lawrence from the Week in Review, today at 5, tune in, WHGE 95.3 FM. All right. And here are 5 of the worst MAGA attacks on black Americans in Trump's first month. I got this from The Root. Okay. You know, we made it through the first full month. In this article, they call him President Donald J. Trump. I call him President Junior because Elon Musk seems to be running things. And as we prepare for the rest of his 4 years, The Root is taking a look at all the unthinkable attacks on black Americans. RFK Jr. Oh my God, what is he, the Surgeon General now? Jeez Louise. He's the Secretary of Health and Human Services. That's what it's actually confirmed on February 13th. Despite his history of anti-vaccine and perpetrating racist ideals, okay, his confirmation represents an unprecedented regression in the American health system. Most notably, the Trump nominee claimed a series of studies in Poland show black folks have a much stronger reaction to particular antigens. Meaning, in his mind, black people should be on a different vaccine schedule than other Americans. Now, where you get that from? And studies in Poland. I mean, they made that ish up. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Of course, the second thing was DEI banned at the federal level. Elongated muskrat and Junior President Trump, or got Junior President Trump to sign an order to end diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in federal departments and agencies on January 20. His order also detailed plans to compile a list targeting all federal contractors, grantees with DEI programs, according to the White House. So far, dozens of companies and agencies have rolled back DEI and fired employees en masse. Most notably, however, Apple and Costco had doubled down on their DEI initiatives. And of course, Target, which has been losing something like $15 billion a day, right? They were one of the first ones to come out. Yeah, we're rolling back DEI. We're killing all our DEI initiatives. And Target is finding out the hard way. They're even being sued by their shareholders for doing this. If we're not being honest, that it would have an effect on the bottom line. Another thing, Trump and MAGA blame DEI for fatal plane crash. Even with DEI being banned by the president, Trump and his supporters still managed to blame diversity, equity, and inclusion for the fatal collision between a DC-bound passenger plane and a Black Hawk helicopter. The FAA is actually actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities. I said they just be making stuff up. But since they did this DEI ban, diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's been more crashes this year. And it's only February than there was in the last 2-3 years. On his first day in office, the fourth thing he did was attack the 14th Amendment. The Orange Disaster, the feckless felon, signed the executive order attacking birthright citizenship, the constitutional right giving automatic citizenship to any person born in their states. Although it was framed as an attack on illegal immigration, the 14th Amendment goes back to slavery. After the Civil War ended, 3 amendments were added to the Constitution, granting citizenship and righting the wrongs of slavery, passed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, known as the Reconstruction Amendments. And now, at least one of them is at risk for removal. According to PBS, over 22 states have filed lawsuits against Trump's order, saying it goes directly against the U.S. Constitution. More states and activists are expected to file their own suits. And 5th, ending Black History Month at the Department of Defense. So, one of the main things that he cut out, and what he said was, identity months are dead at the Department of Defense. Okay. What they don't want you to know about are things like what I talked about last week, the Tuskegee Airmen. And not only that, but they're also cutting out any recruitment of blacks, of black people. For instance, they will no longer recruit from the annual Black Engineer Conference, where they have some of the best black engineers in the country, well educated. Don't really need diversity, equity, and inclusion. They could go on merit, and that's what they're going to do in the private sector. So this is what a lot of people are missing. I said it a few times. Is that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and affirmative action primarily benefits white women. So a lot of white women lost their jobs because they came in under DEI programs, under diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. I keep saying it out because I don't want to just get it tagged with DEI and go along with their slogan, with their dog whistle, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But a lot of black women came in, a lot of black people came into employment strictly on their merit, strictly on their education, strictly on their talent, strictly on their skills. The company had no choice but to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Because the talent, skill, and education is so high amongst these black people. Because as we know, the most educated group in the country is black women. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just be real about it. Like I said last week or a couple of weeks ago. Just be real about it. You don't like diversity, equity, and inclusion. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Patrice Gibbs here, your third eye optometrist. Of course, one of the things that the Orange Disaster and his Project 25 cohorts I'm going after are immigrants, illegal or otherwise. Specifically, they're going after brown people that speak Spanish. That's their primary target. And they're taking jobs. They're taking American jobs. Here's what Jasmine Crockett said about that. She said, yeah, there's an immigrant taking people's jobs. He's snatching farms, government jobs, even those which they manage are national security, and definitely those whose jobs are to root out fraud, like inspector generals, and those that are keeping us safe, the FAA, Meals on Wheels workers, Head Start, and the list goes on. So I'll be the bigger person to admit to MAGA that I was wrong when I said immigrants wouldn't take our jobs. They were 100% correct. An immigrant is taking people's jobs. Elon Musk. And yeah, I look at some of the people that are right now suffering from FAFO, F around, find out. He just fired chief of staff, a black man. All right, the Pentagon's chief of staff. And remember, he don't like veterans. And don't forget, neither do Republicans. They really don't. Because they block these veterans bills in Congress. The Clay Hunt Suicide Prevention Act. Suicide is a major problem amongst veterans suffering from PTSD. They block the health benefits and retirement pay restoration. They block the Wounded Veterans Job Security Act, the Veterans Retraining Act, the Homeless Veterans Reintegration, the Disabled Home Accessibility Grant, the Job Corps Act, the Torture Veterans and Victims Relief, the Veterans Business Center Act. And these people always running around talking about support our troops, support our troops. And this is how the party of so-called patriots respect our troops, by making life harder for them. No respect for them. Now, there was something there during his first term in office. The Tangerine Terrorists appointed one of the, what's that guy's name? He's one of the worst, I think, congressmen, appointed him attorney general. And the first thing this who jumped up talking about was that he was going after black identity extremists, which of course to them is any black person speaking out on the injustices and oppression that we suffer. How dare you bring that up? Now here we are with COINTELPRO 2.0 as Trump's FBI plans to go after anti-racist black leaders and organizations. If history is any guide, Trump's FBI would exacerbate small rivalries and spread false allegations against organizations and leaders to undermine their reputations and support, and or to justify jailing or sentencing key leaders. The pervasiveness of an anti-blackness among people of all races eases this job of Trump's FBI and those unwittingly aiding the state due to petty ideological or personal differences. And let me go over that again. The pervasiveness of anti-blackness among people of all races. Brown people, Asian people. anti-blackness. And for some of you, if it weren't for the Civil Rights Act, your ass wouldn't even be here. Now here we go again with this black identity extremist. You know, Dr. King showed us that speaking out, pointing out the injustices to those who benefit from that seems extreme. Dove and I, WHGE 95.3 FM. All right. Moving right along here. There's a U.S. aid worker fired by elongated muskrat, as Lori, I think Lori Daniels calls it. That's where I got that from. This U.S. aid worker, U.S. aid worker, gave out a warning. And this is what she said. Marburg disease has a 90% fatality rate. And Trump and Elon Musk shut down U.S. aid at the same time a Marburg outbreak was declared. Hey, boy, what's up? That's heard. There's dengue, which is on its way to the U.S., an active Ebola breakout in Uganda, Mpox, polio, the bird flu, which is probably the next pandemic. This will cede territory to China, to Russia, and also to terrorist groups like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and the Houthis, as they'll have a much easier time moving in. And it's going to cost the U.S. taxpayers so much money because of the way this was done. The grain is rotting in the ports and on the ships. And the medications are in warehouses going bad. This is not up to Elon and Trump to take away. And that's from Nancy Boland, Bronxite, the former U.S. aid worker. And it goes on. Hey, Sheena. And it goes on. Because what they want to do, they want to outlaw blackness. Right? You know, there was a time, and this is what they want to bring back. There was a time you could be arrested for being a black person on a sunny day. They want to outlaw any mention of our history. The education department warned it would penalize schools that consider race in scholarships, hiring decisions and other activities, including professional societies, fraternities, and sororities tailored to students of specific ethnic heritages or race. It's the latest move in the Armed Disasters Administration, stop calling it administration, regime. It's the latest move in this regime's push to recast programs intended to level the playing field for historically underserved populations as a form of racial discrimination. Now, Black Greek letter fraternities and sororities, these organizations are open to students of any race. And now they're going to make it, they're going to penalize schools. And why do they have Black Greek letter fraternities and sororities? Because those white fraternities and sororities would not let black people in. Which is why we always created our own. Why you have HBCUs. Because with predominantly white institutions would not allow black people in. And one of the crazy things that I often hear from MAGA supporters, and especially from black MAGA supporters, is that their support for the orange disaster, for the tangerine terrorists, a feckless felon, is because he's a good businessman. Which is a fallacy, because he is not a good businessman. Anybody that runs a casino in the bankruptcy is not a good businessman. A casino is a cash cow. The mob ran casinos for years and siphoned millions off the top without breaking the bank. And it's from Sister Nzinga. Where did this ideal come from that a country needs to be run like a business? A business is run for profit. A country is supposed to be run for service, providing infrastructure and health care and education and emergency services. You know, the stuff we effing pay for with our taxes. If you begin to run a country like a business, you'll cut things that don't make a profit. But some things aren't supposed to make a profit. What? What? Do you want firefighters that operate on a subscription service? Damn. Wake up, y'all. WHGE 95.3 FM, Dove and I. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist. And one of the things I just recently heard was that the orange disaster regime has taken down the list of cops that have been in extreme violation from the Department of Justice website. This list included cops that had that brutalized people, that had been deeply involved in police brutality, rape, murder of citizens. And this list was there so that other municipalities, towns, cities, or whatever that hire police didn't hire those police on that list. So they couldn't leave one police force where they had messed up so bad they done got fired or forced to resign, and then just go on to another town or city or state and get a job. But now they don't have that list. And why would that list be needed? Well, for the reasons that are stated. And for reasons like this. Yeah, the entire Alabama Police Department put on leave after the grand jury recommends its abolition. The mayor of a city in Alabama has placed his entire police department on administrative leave. The whole damn police department. A day after officials announced that a grand jury had recommended the small department be abolished, saying it had operated as more of a criminal enterprise than a law enforcement agency, and is an ongoing threat to public safety. The whole damn police department wasn't nothing but a crime family. Jim Sawyer, the mayor of Hanceville, a city of about 3,200, roughly 45 miles north of Birmingham, said in a statement Thursday evening that after an effective meeting with Coleman County Sheriff Matt Gentry, all employees of the police department will be placed on administrative leave effective 5 p.m. Thursday. Brother Jakim, Beverly. Sawyer said all 911 and emergency calls will be routed directly to the sheriff's office, which will provide all law enforcement services to the city of Hanceville. The whole department. At a news conference Wednesday, Coleman County District Attorney Champ Crocker announced that a grand jury had indicted Hanceville Police Chief Jason Shane Marlin and 4 other officers, as well as one of the officers' wives, on various charges, which include tampering with evidence as part of an extensive corruption investigation. Now, the police department employed only 8 officers as of August, when Marlin was sworn in as chief. A woman who answered the police department's dispatch line earlier Thursday said there was no one available to speak to a reporter about its size, and the department had no comment about anything. Yeah, I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. The grand jury toured the Hanceville jail and were left with no confidence in the police department's ability to maintain a jail or to meet the basic health and safety needs of jail personnel or inmates. I mean, damn. Yeah. Now, some of the officers that were indicted, Cody Allen, Jason Scott, William Andrew, Michael Kelso, and his wife. They were indicted with tampering with evidence. So you know what that means. Okay? They're also charged with 2 felony counts of failing to report ethnic crimes. And they definitely don't want to do that. Okay. One of the cops' wives, Donna Kelso, is accused of unlawfully distributing anabolic steroids. A goddamn drug dealer. Charged with unlawful distribution of a controlled substance and criminal conspiracy to commit a controlled substance crime. Dealing drugs. That's what they're doing, among other things. Tampering with evidence, meaning they fixing up evidence on people. Yeah. Whoa. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Now, a couple of weeks ago, upstate New York. Yeah, we went from Alabama all the way up to New York with this. It made me think of what Uncle Richard said when I asked him how far south you got to go to be south. He said, boy, you south of Canada, you south. Maybe south of the North Pole, the ways even some of the Canadians had. Robert Brooks, who's beat to death on video by 10 correctional officers. The path toward justice for Robert Brooks has begun as the 10 former correctional officers were indicted in the killing of a New York State prison inmate. And I would advise you not to watch the video because it's traumatizing. It's traumatizing. On February 20th, officers appeared before a grand jury as their charges were read. 6 other officers faced felony second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. 3 of the officers faced second-degree manslaughter charges, while Nicholas Gentile received tampering with physical evidence charges. A criminal indictment accused the former guards of acting in conduct that created a grave risk of death to another person and thereby caused the death of Robert Brooks. The incident made national headlines after body cam footage was released showing Brooks being beaten, and they were proud of it. I guess they didn't think this video was going to get out to other people, because I saw the video, and I saw one of them hold the man up. He seemed unconscious, if not already dead. And there was no video, but he held him up as if to say, see what we'll do to your ass? Yeah, officers are seeing him hold him up. 43-year-old inmate. Punching and kicking him in the face, private area, torso, while his arms were restrained. The indictment says the beating and assaults were carried out as the defendants acted in concert together. In addition to the beating, defendants with depraved indifference did nothing to restrain each other, did nothing to stop the beatings, and failed to immediately order medical assistance for Mr. Brooks. No, because this was business as usual. This is what they do. This is what they do. Onondaga County District Attorney Will Fitzpatrick said the footage shows a disturbing sense of normalcy from the former guards as a medical examiner ruled Brooks died as a result of compression of the neck and multiple blunt impact injuries. I think any sentient human being looking at the tapes naturally comes to the conclusion that that Brooks must have said something. He must have spit at the officers, Fitzpatrick said. He must have resisted in some way. Fitzpatrick went on to say, the fact of the matter is he did absolutely nothing. And this was his second beating. When he got there, when he got to the prison, they beat him. There's a welcome beating. These men must be fully prosecuted and convicted for what they have done. But even the convictions of these correction officers for the murder of Mr. Brooks won't be enough. Every person in authority who allowed this system of violence and abuse to exist and continue for so long must be held accountable. That's a quote from Robert Brooks Jr., the murder victim's son. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. All right, thank you, baby. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. And change that music up a little bit here. Let's see. Yeah. Next time, come on with this here. Okay. All right. You wonder where we're going here? Where are we going here? because the tangerine terrorist is declaring that he doesn't have to adhere to the court's edicts when they oppose the things that he wants to do. One of the reasons they don't want you educated, especially about history, okay, those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Those that block you from learning history plan to repeat it. Got people running around, throwing up the Nazi salute. This is from Right Wing Watch. Just so you understand. Listen. In 1923, Adolf Hitler incited an insurrection against the German government. This event became known as the Beer Hall Push. He was tried, given a slap on the wrist, and became a convicted felon. A lot of this is going to sound real familiar. Despite being treated charitably by the judge, Hitler claimed the trial was political persecution and successfully portrayed himself as a victim of the corrupt Social Democrats. Hitler cleverly positioned himself as the voice of the common man, railing against the elites, cultural degeneracy, and the establishment, who he all labeled as Marxists. He claimed the education system was indoctrinating children to hate Germany and promised to return Germany to greatness. Among Hitler's earliest and most fervent supporters were evangelical Christians in the Deutsche Christian movement who believed Hitler was sent by God to save Germany. Hitler also framed himself as a Christian prophet in Mein Kampf, My Struggle. When Hitler later survived an assassination attempt, it further cemented this belief. To solidify his base, Hitler masterfully scapegoated minorities for the nation's problems, exploiting societal divisions with an us versus them narrative. And many Germans took the bait. Hitler's Nazi party continued to gain traction until he became chancellor in 1933. When he was elected, don't get it mixed. After Hitler came to power, the Nazi thugs who stormed government buildings during the Beer Hall Push were celebrated as national heroes and given medals. Police and military officials who had resisted the push or were seen as disloyal to Hitler were purged or reassigned. The Nazis sought to bring all branches of government, including law enforcement and the military, under their control. The Nazis enacted the law for the restoration of the professional civil service upon gaining power. Listen, you catching on? I hope so. Which allowed them to remove anyone deemed disloyal to Hitler from government positions. This law was used to purge the civil service of individuals who had opposed the Nazi movement, including those involved in prosecuting the Beer Hall Push. Hitler wasted no time dismantling democratic institutions. Loyalty wasn't just encouraged, it was demanded. Opponents were silenced. Media that dared question him were vilified as the enemy and Marxists. Hitler's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, bragged about how the Nazis were able to intimidate the media into giving them favorable coverage and didn't need to give direct orders. Hitler linked socialism to Judaism and portrayed it as a foreign ideology invading Germany that needed to be eradicated in order to liberate the white majority, who he convinced were victims of foreigners and minorities. Hitler used this as a pretext to eradicate diversity and inclusion in the German government and in German businesses. Jews, blacks, and other minorities were pushed out of their jobs and replaced by white men who the Nazis viewed as inherently superior and thus inherently more qualified. 600 to 800 mixed-race children were sterilized, and people of color were arrested and sent to prison camps for political offenses and or for simply being non-white. These prisoners were then used for forced labor. Hitler appointed German oligarchs as his economic advisors. He proceeded to privatize government-run utilities, solidifying support of the economic elite. With the working class divided along cultural and ethnic lines, the Nazis shut down workers' unions and abolished strikes. Progressives and trade unionists were imprisoned and sent to concentration camps. Corporate profits skyrocketed, while working class Germans lived paycheck to paycheck. And Hitler, who became a billionaire while in office, knew he and his clan of oligarchs could get away with the scam if they constantly had an enemy within to blame, while the corporatocracy robbed the country blind. An easy target of one of the smallest minorities. Hitler removed birthright citizenship rights of Jews and started rounding them up for mass deportations for being illegally in the country. The German press, under Nazi rule, highlighted instances of violence by Jews to make them appear to be a common occurrence, to convince the public that Jewish immigrants were a danger to real Germans. The Nazi regime and its followers collected all books they saw as promoting degeneracy, what will be considered woke today, and burned them in large bonfires. They also burned books that promoted class consciousness. The Nazis also saw manhood as under threat by independent women who didn't rely on men. In 1934, Hitler proclaimed a woman's world is her husband, her family, her children, her house. Laws that had protected women's rights were repealed, and new laws were introduced to restrict women to the home and in their roles as wives and mothers. Reproductive rights were severely rolled back, and doctors who performed abortions could face the death penalty. Berlin had a thriving LGBTQ community in the 1920s, and even had the first transgender clinic that performed gender-affirming surgeries. The Nazis burned it to the ground. LGBTQ people were sent to concentration camps, tortured, and killed. Many would later be killed in the Holocaust. As Hitler acted belligerently and kept invading other countries, tactics on how to deal with all the political prisoners and Jews began to shift. The final solution was formalized in 1941-1942 following the invasion of the Soviet Union, while the ideal extermination had been discussed among Nazi leaders earlier. It was not the original intent when Jews were first arrested in the 1930s. The shift from persecution and deportation to genocide was a gradual process, influenced by war, ideological radicalization, and logistical considerations. Despite what may appear to be clear warning signs to the danger to come, the German people didn't have a similar historical parallel to look upon as a warning. Most Germans never acted like the sky was falling. Most just went along with their lives as usual until many of their lives were snuffed out. By the time Hitler's reign was forced to an end by the Allied powers, 11 million people were murdered in the Holocaust, and 70 to 85 million people were killed in World War II. Let that sink in. Yeah. Let that sink in. Because stupidity is a more dangerous enemy of the good than malice. Ram Slaughter, I see you there. One may protest against evil. It can be exposed and, if need be, prevented by use of force. Evil always carries within itself the germ of its own subversion, in that it leaves behind in human beings at least a sense of unease. Against stupidity, we are defenseless. Neither protest nor the use of force accomplish anything here. Reason falls on deaf ears. Facts that contradict one's prejudgment simply needs to not be believed. In such moments, the stupid person even becomes critical. And when facts are irrefutable, they're just pushed aside as inconsequential or incidental. In all this, the stupid person, in contrast to the malicious one, is utterly self-satisfied, and being easily irritated becomes dangerous by going on the attack. For that reason, greater caution is called for when dealing with a stupid person than with a malicious one. Never again will we try to persuade the stupid person with reasons, for it is senseless and dangerous. And that was from Dietrich Bonhoeffer on stupidity. Letters and papers from prison. Yeah, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. They're from 1906 to 1945. WHGE 95.3 FM. I think you know why this is the Open Eye. Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist here. Brother Alan Lawrence, let's see here if I can get it all in. Yes. Okay, Brother Alan Lawrence tells us a federal judge blocked parts of Orange Disaster's executive orders targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion on Friday, arguing his orders directing government grant recipients to halt DEI programs are too vague to be enforced or infringe on free speech. Too vague to be enforced. This is from Sister Marcy Smiles. She reminds, she said, I don't care what no one says, it still boggles my mind that we had to fight for every effing thing. Had to fight for our hair to be worn out. Had to fight to play hockey, basketball, baseball, football, wrestling, tennis. Had to fight to get married. Had to fight to sit anywhere we wanted on the bus. Had to fight to go into a restaurant. Had to fight to drink out of a water faucet. Had to fight to go to college. Had to fight to get equal pay. Had to fight to get acting rules. Had to fight to get our music on the radio. Or acting roles, excuse me. Had to fight to get into Congress. Had to fight in the military. Had to fight to own a farm. Had to fight to own a business. Had to fight to become a doctor or a lawyer. Had to fight to become a CEO. Had to fight to live in certain neighborhoods. Had to fight to desegregate schools. Had to fight to get them to stop hanging us from trees. Had to fight to get on a jury. Had to fight to own property. Had to fight to have a bank account. Had to fight to get paid family leave equally to our white counterparts. Had to fight to get scholarships. Had to fight to get any kind of African American history and textbooks for public schools. We had to fight to get clean water. In black communities, clean water. We had to fight to get protection from forced sterilization. We had to fight for everything we have. And I mean everything. So where in the hell do people get off thinking that we could possibly be lazy? Damn this thing, we weren't lazy until we stopped being slaves. Brother Anthony Ray Slaughter says, black people unite, the fight will be over. We are leaders then. Yeah. Alan Lawrence, U.S. District Judge Adam Abelson, who was appointed by former President Trump, said, former President Biden, said the Orange Disaster's orders were vague, stating the orders do not define any of the operative terms, including DEI, equity-related or illegal DEI and DEIA policies. Yeah. WHGE 95.3 FM, winding down here over time. That's all. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Advocacy Education Station. Yes, indeed, you will get an education listening to WHGE 95.3 FM. Yesterday was February 21st. 60 years ago. 60 years ago. Malcolm X was assassinated. Someone inboxed me, who was this from? I forgot who it was from. Didn't put their name down. But his brother stated, someone inboxed me talking mess, asking for names of Malcolm X's murderers, like I wouldn't remember. Sadly, logic is not taught in the K-12 schools as a mandatory curriculum component. Who could forget them? I can't. FYI, the known killers of Malcolm X: Talmadge Hayer, Ben Thomas, Leon Davis, Willie Bradley, Wilbur McKinley, and Linwood X. The first five met consistently to planning, even attempting dry runs other times. This is the black garbage we speak of, the filthy sewage running through our communities, getting free passes. All Nation of Islam members, 2 of them in NOI leadership. Almost all out of mosque number 25 in Newark, New Jersey. Only Talmadge Higher served time. The rest got off scot-free and mostly live protected lives in these rotten black Muslim communities in and around Newark. You can bring up the FBI, the CIA, the New York police, white mafia. They didn't kill Malcolm X. These black degenerates did. Sure, the context for his killing was internal and external. NOI internal and FBI, NYPD, and CIA international. But logic would tell you to identify and bring summary final justice to the garbage that pulled the triggers. Logic. Then go on your speculative goose chases for whatever reason you're looking for. But first deal with black degenerates who killed him. Stop giving these rotten Negroes passes. WHGE 95.3 FM. Dope and I. Here, at this final hour, in this quiet place, Harlem has come to bid farewell to one of his brightest hopes, extinguished now and gone from us forever. For Harlem is where he worked and where he struggled and fought. His home of homes, where his heart was and where his people are. And it is, therefore, most fitting that we meet once again in Harlem to share these last moments with him. For Harlem has been gracious to those who have loved her, have fought for her, and have defended her, honor, even to the death. It is not in the memory of man that this beleaguered, unfortunate, but nonetheless proud community has found a braver, more gallant young champion than this Afro-American who lies before us, unconquered still. I say the word again, as he would want me to, Afro-American Malcolm, who was a master, who was meticulous in his use of words. Nobody knew better than he the power of words have over minds of men. Malcolm had stopped being a Negro years ago. It had become too small, too puny, too weak a word for him. Malcolm was bigger than that. Malcolm had become an Afro-American, and he wanted so desperately that all his people will become Afro-Americans too. There are those who will consider it their duty as friends of the Negro people to tell us to revile him, to flee from even the presence of his memory, to save ourselves by writing him out of the history of our turbulent times. Many will ask what Harlem finds to honor in this stormy, controversial, and bold young captain, and we will smile. Many will say, turn away from this man, for he is not a man, but a demon, a monster, a subverter, and an enemy of black people. And we will smile. They will say that he is of hate, a fanatic, a racist, who can only bring evil to the cause for which you struggle. And we will answer and say to them, did you ever talk to Brother Malcolm? Did you ever touch him or have him smile at you? Did you ever really listen to him? Did he ever do a mean thing? Was he ever himself associated with violence or any public disturbance? For if you did, you would know him. And if you knew him, you would know why we must honor him. Malcolm was our manhood, our living black manhood. This was his meaning to his people. And in honoring him, we honor the best in ourselves. Lashford from Africa, he wrote these words to a friend. My journey, he says, is almost ended and have a much broader scope than when I started out, which I believe will add new life and dimension to our struggle for freedom and honor and dignity in the States. I am writing these things so that you will know for a fact the tremendous sympathy and support we have among the African states for our human rights struggle. The main thing is that we keep a united front wherein our most valuable time and energy will not be wasted fighting each other. However, we may have differed with him or with each other about him and his values as a man. Let his going from us serve only to bring us together now. Consigning these mortal remains to earth, the common mother of all, secure in the knowledge that we place in the ground, is no more now a man but a seed, which after the winter of our discontent will come forth again to meet us. And we will know him then for what he was and is, a prince, our own black shining prince who didn't hesitate to die because he loved us so.
That there will come a time when black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves. Then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself. You'll find
WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Thanks for joining us on The Open Eye today at WHGE 95.3 FM. Yes, I know I went over quite a bit there. That's okay. All right. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. I'm Patrice Gibbs. All right. Thanks for joining us. And as I always tell you, global African supremacy. Keep your eye on Africa. It's coming. Because that world was a much better place when the African ruled. I'm Patrice.